an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering Dark, Season 2, Episode 8, Endings and Beginnings. In this episode, well, that did not go the way that I was expecting. But then, what in this show has ever gone the way that I've expected? Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everybody. I am Natasha. Thank you very much to Nikolai for commissioning this episode. Oh boy, you guys, this episode was, I don't even know where to start. I mean, for the first thing, I guess we can talk about how Charlotte's mother is her own daughter. I don't even know where to go with that. Her mother is her own daughter. So that means that she goes back in time. Or she brings her daughter back in time somehow. Or I guess Noah does. Y'all, this show is too much. All right. I don't like, there's nothing to be said about that revelation except like, what? Like, we already thought shit was about as messed up as it was going to get with a poor kid falling in love with what turns out to be a blood relative. But this, I mean, the knot that's being created here, and that's what they keep calling it, and now I'm understanding that more, is just, there's no way to parse it out. And okay, so this episode is called Endings and Beginnings. And that's the one thing I will say that this show needs to do better on, is naming episodes. Because if you had paid me money, I would have guessed that, I would have bet my money that the title Endings and Beginnings was an episode I'd covered already. That is just such a generic, like, I don't understand why they don't do slightly more memorable ones so that you can tell episodes apart. I guess they're just not really worried about people talking about the episodes in regard to their titles, but in their events, I guess. But guys, we get like we get to see the end of the world, and it is so not what I thought it was going to be, guys. All right, so let's start. We begin the episode with, oh no, this is going to be bad because I always get her name wrong. But this is Elizabeth, who is Charlotte's mother and daughter. And she is standing in the ruins of the world that she now lives in, with ash floating around her. And she goes into the woods to dig up a series of photographs, and this is when we get the bombshell. It takes a second for me to realize that is her in the pictures with the baby, because it doesn't, like, obviously she looks so different now, so I didn't get it right away. But what a bonkers thing to start the episode with. This isn't like a bombshell they drop at the end. This is how they kick things off, which is just so insane. And I want to mention the design of and I think that this is supposed to be ash. It might be snow that's just blowing through the air. But the design of this world that is dead and decrepit, this is well done. I feel like it takes a certain something to make a world feel like it really is destroyed, and that there isn't, if you turn the corner, going to be, either a series of trailers for the actors or just a lush green field. But this show has really gotten me to believe that everything around here is like either already dead, dying, or struggling. And there have been in other episodes, I have noticed these like weird, shaggy sort of, I think they're growths, but it's hard to tell, around these tree trunks that almost look like they're shaped almost the way you picture a hornet's nest to be shaped. But they aren't, it doesn't look like a hornet's nest. And I can't figure out if this is supposed to be a result of what happened, or if this is something weird that is like, that just grows in the forests in this area. Also, the area that she has buried everything is near a broken down plane. And the plane is covered in huge swaths of like, of spider web that look like they were created by mutant spiders. So I don't know, like what winds up going down does seem as if it is going to result in like mutations because it's all due to radioactivity. But I'm not positive if I'm reading that right, or if that's what they intend for me to take away from their designs or what. But just something interesting that I noticed. It's not really that important. So, and yeah, right when I'm starting to be like, am I reading this right? Is that her with her daughter who is actually her mother in those pictures? We cut to Charlotte in bed with her husband and Elizabeth, and you get like beyond a shadow of a doubt that that is exactly what they are telling you. The design of the like everybody's homes in this show is really interesting, and I'm not like 100% certain that I understand what they're doing every time, but I will say that I was taken aback by the design of Charlotte and Peter's bedroom. It's huge. It's like, I don't know. It just was much larger than I thought. And they have this like really dark green motif going on. I think maybe it's meant to be a bit of a juxtaposition against everything that's sort of dead in the New World, is this like kind of rich green. But I was like, just when I pictured with what their bedroom was like, I just thought of something much smaller and more ordinary. And it is a little bit fancy almost. Anyway, so this is when we go to Noah, who is telling his younger self, if you knew what I know now, you wouldn't do what you must, which enables me to get to this moment. I can't exist in the here and now if you don't go exactly the same way that I did. Now, this is something that we keep coming across, is this assumption that if things don't go exactly the same way, then I will not turn into the person that I am, and I am who I need to be for XYZ to happen. And I don't know, like, the thing is that this keeps being proven wrong. It's like not it's not proven wrong. It's more that despite that, there is a constant attempt to change the way things have happened anyway. So like Noah is sending back his younger self to do whatever his younger self is going to do, because Noah has decided that he is going to shoot Adam. And he believes that if his younger self doesn't do what he remembers having done, that he won't have the strength to do this thing right now. But Noah knows that Adam knows what's going to happen, right? So why does Noah think that he's going to catch Adam by surprise here? And this is like Adam says, once Noah confronts him, Adam says, Claudia was right. You still don't understand how this game is played. Apparently not. Because first of all, motherfucker had the safety on, which is just adorable. Noah has seemed like such a threat this whole show. Like he has really seemed like the guy to worry about. And instead, it seems like he is just this lost goober who doesn't know what's happening, who is being lied to, but like, it's not even like he's being lied to effectively. It's not like, it doesn't feel like it has taken much, I guess is what I'm saying. He seems very gullible, and I don't know what it is that has rendered him so malleable, I guess is the word. Like, who got to him and when to convince him that he should just listen to everything that Adam, aka Jonas, says? What happened to him to make him believe in all of this? I don't know. I'm really curious about Noah and the direction he's gone. And Noah, like, his own sister shoots him in a scene that's honestly brutal. Like, there's something about the tenderness with which she does it and the sadness with which Adam gives her the order to do it that really, like, I shouldn't care that much that Noah's dead because he's been a tool and a dickhead, really. But it really bummed me out. It like kind of got to me a little bit because everybody in that scene seems so aware of what's about to happen except him. And that's like, there's a humiliation in that. You know what I mean? There's a feeling of just like, it's not fair or right. Everybody there seemed to know this was coming, and he's the only one who didn't. And I'm just kind of like, oh, precious baby. Like, good effort, but like, no, you know, I don't know. There is something about the whole way that all went down that really fucked my head up a little bit. And that's nothing compared to some things that wind up happening later. So I will jump ahead a bit here. We go to Jonas, who gets the gun from his mother's little box, and he heads out, and we don't know where he's going, but we wind up finding out he's going to the Nielsen's house because he wants to save Marta. And he says something to her when he goes and sees her about how he has watched her die once already and he's not going to do it again. Again, everybody keeps falling prey to the idea that they can change things, even though it has seemed to be proven repeatedly that they can't. And the thing is, older Jonas will have gone through what we see in this episode between him and Claudia already. So he knows how the very act of trying to prevent something is often what leads to it happening, because he has talked to Claudia about how she didn't realize she was the one who led to the death of her father. So she was trying to save him, and in doing so wound up killing him. You would think that after hearing several of those types of stories, which I'm sure by now older Jonas has, that he would realize this shit isn't gonna work. But apparently not. Because he goes and gets Marta, tries to put her in the bunker, telling her to stay put. It's an awful moment because he is, I guess, not aware who else winds up making it to the bunker. He locks her in thinking that there won't be a way for her to get out. But I'm pretty sure he's the one who told everybody that they needed to get into the bunker. So y'all, he just doesn't seem, I don't think he really understands how differently Marta feels about the older version of him versus the younger version of him. And you can see it in the moment. Like when he goes to confront her to get her to go into the bunker, they are very close to one another. And there's a moment of it feeling like they might be about to kiss. And she pulls back and says, "This isn't right. We aren't right." And I wondered in that moment if that was really because of the fact that he's older and she's weirded out by it. And then, sure enough, when she comes up to Jonas in the house later, and it's the Jonas that's familiar, the same age, the one that she knows, whether or not things are right between them and whether this is wrong doesn't seem to bother her as much, because she is still willing to make out with him and is super, super emotionally attached to him in the way that we are familiar with. So I think older Jonas underestimated the difference there, because if younger Jonas had like begged her to go to the bunker, I think she would have listened. Older Jonas doesn't have the sway over her. It's too creepy. He's older, so there's like a predatory feel to it, even though that's not exactly what it is, but she can't help but feel that. And he is the one that was in the room and knew about the two of them being related. So there's an inherent feeling of like, this guy's related to me, but the younger Jonas that I know isn't, or maybe doesn't know, or if he does know, like he just found out. So it's different. He's not walking around having known this for 10 years and then still trying to like come at me in the same way. And yeah, I just don't think that Jonas completely appreciated what that was going to be like for her, to see like the different versions of him, and one of them just meaning more to her and, you know, being more trustworthy to her. But yeah, eventually like she winds up being let out of the bunker that he takes her to at gunpoint, because this, Peter and Elizabeth show up, and later on, young Noah shows up. What a creep. I don't know who this kid is that they cast, but he just fucking, there is a bad vibe to that kid. I don't like him. And I feel this way like about the actor. Like there's some, I don't know if it's the way he's playing this role or if it is who he is, but thumbs down. And throughout all of this, we keep seeing younger Noah, who has already gone through the hanging and everything. He's got the scar on his neck, but it's like mostly healed up by now. And he is with Claudia. And he's telling her that she said they could change one factor in the equation so that he pauses and looks at her and says, and like sort of has to take a moment to remind himself, so I'd be successful the next time, then none of this sick shit will ever happen. Mika won't vanish. Michael won't kill himself. And it's like, this is what she has told him at some point, but I don't know what happened to him from here, because this can't be how this goes down. We have not yet seen a single instance of anyone successfully changing what has happened in the past at all. It's never happened. And I'm so curious what it would look like, because, you know, there keeps being these like statements of, well, if you don't do this thing, then you won't become the person that I now am. I want to see, if they change something, what it looks like to see a person be someone else all of a sudden. Do they physically change and morph in the moment from someone to someone else? Do they have a different haircut? Are they wearing different clothes? Do they have an injury they didn't have, or did they lose an injury that they did have? Do they speak differently? I want to know all about how that would work. And I don't know that we're ever going to get anything like that, because that's not really what the show seems particularly interested in. But I'm real curious about it. So he walks up to these drums of toxic waste that are still here. And he says the big things and the little things don't follow the same rules. We won't be able to change the grand scheme of things, which I thought was really interesting. And I wanted more details on that. And he says, but the details. And then he pulls out the little vial with the material. And he says, we change a grain of sand. And with that, the whole world. So I am soups curious. I want to know what it is that led Claudia to this place, that she was telling him this, how she discovered what she did, why it is that her and Adam are at odds. Later on, Noah says, you're waging war on the entire human race. What does that even mean? Like, you know, I don't even know what that is supposed to... What does that look like? I have no idea. We get a moment here between Bartosz and Regina. And he asks what Grandma was like, out of nowhere. What was she like as a mother? And he finally tells her that she isn't dead. She was here last fall, and she gave me this to give to you. She came after Mikkel disappeared. And he gives her the photo of the two of them together. And eventually, Claudia shows up looking the same as she does in that photo from what, at this point, like 33 years ago. And he tells her the whole thing. But like she said, if she could turn back time, she'd change the way things happened. And his mother starts to get really emotional and does, like, unaware, this bitch is about to walk up into your life, like looking the same way she did. I don't even know what to make of it. And Bartosz, I'm like glad he told her, but at the same time, I don't know what he's thinking, dropping this bomb and then being like, I'll come back, I promise, and leaving. What are you doing? And I appreciated her reaction where she just goes, where are you going now? Indeed, ma'am. The question we are all asking. So she, like, Bartosz, I don't understand your role in all of this, to be perfectly honest. What? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to make of him. But the reunion between the two of them is so strange. You know, her mother is like apologizing and looks the same as she did. Regina doesn't know about like the time travel thing. So there's no explanation for her of like why her mother looks exactly the same. Like, it's just so odd. Let's go to Clausen, who is serving Alexander with the warrant to search the power plant. Alexander is really, really distraught. He looks like a mess. He is extremely like anxious, you can see. He doesn't know what's going to happen to him. Clausen, as it turns out, doesn't really have any evidence of, like, he says something about how if I could prove that my brother was murdered. So apparently he doesn't even know what happened to his brother, which is, yikes. That's always been something that I like maintain is worst case scenario. Like, having somebody be murdered is terrible. Don't get me wrong, of course. But having somebody disappear and not know what happened, to me, is infinitely worse. You can imagine all sorts of terrible things. You're never sure that they didn't just run away or that, like, you know, are they dead? Are they still alive? Anything could be true and you will never know. And that not knowing for me is a nightmare. So I have a little sympathy for Clausen with that, but it really gets pretty much choked out of me by the way things go down a little bit later. We find out that Clausen winds up being pretty much the instigator of the end of the world. And it's all due to this petty determination to take Alexander down specifically, which it's so frustrating to watch it happen because you know that's what it is. He's not doing this for the good of people. He's saying that we need to dig this thing up and pull out these barrels of waste and open them. And granted, they're in radiation suits, but nevertheless, dude, do you know what waste is supposed to look like? Or do you know, what do you think you're going to see that's going to be of any information to you in particular? Clausen just irritates me so bad. And he, part of me just keeps wondering if he isn't an agent for some other force, but he seems so clueless that I can't quite get myself to believe that, because the only thing I can think is that he is an agent of Adam's to accomplish the end of the world, which Adam apparently wants. But he genuinely does not appear to know what is happening. It doesn't feel like he's got this knowing sort of look as he's opening the thing and he's like, aha, I'm about to accomplish it. I don't get that vibe. So he just happens to be this wrench that was thrown into the works that caused all of this. Meanwhile, what is the name of the other officer, the one with the eye patch? Wallet? He's aware that they are going to start to brush up against the shit that he helped hide, because he assisted Alexander with burying all of the waste. So he decides that he is going to tell Charlotte about it. And Charlotte starts to realize and put the pieces together of what is going on with the time travel and the toxic waste being buried on site and not being taken care of properly. Meanwhile, Alexander is over here trying to tell Wallet, you've got to get me out of here. You can't let them go in there. And Wallet just says, or maybe it's Waller, but he says, maybe this is for the best. Maybe it's good. Everything's out in the open. And I'm like, you don't know what that means though, dude. I'm super curious if Alexander does know. Because Alexander has so far not really been a huge factor in the time travel aspect of this story. But his determination to hide this, it certainly could just be that he thinks he might go to prison for mishandling it all. And it could be that simple. But I don't know. Maybe there's more to it than that. Maybe he knows about what could happen to everybody, about the power of the stuff, about what it's been used for. I don't know. It's just, I can't get a handle on him and Regina in terms of their place in this, and Bartosz. That whole family just feels so removed from so much of what's going on in this town that I feel it has to be purposeful in terms of the script. They are placed in such a position to be removed so that they are able to accomplish something later on. But I don't know what that looks like. I have no idea. So, okay, let's see. Jumping ahead, we have Bartosz coming up against Magnus and Francesca because he came to them thinking that he was going to be able to get the time machine back. They don't have it because their mother took it. And Francesca has an interesting assessment where he says well, I don't know, this isn't how it's supposed to happen, and I don't know what to do now. And Francesca says, maybe this was what you were supposed to do. Maybe this is it. You were supposed to bring it here and show us how it works. And that was it. And he does not seem to like that, suggestion, and basically takes off to head to their house to see if he can find it. And of course, at this point, Katarina is not there. She has gone to Jonas's house and she is looking for either one of them, but she's got the time machine with her. I thought she was going to use that shit right away, but she has another plan. So she goes up to Jonas's bedroom and she finds the cool, half globe light, which I really think is dope. I want to see that in the world to purchase. I have to imagine somebody came up with something like that. And she finds the map of the caves of Winden. And then she begins to go through their other stuff and finds a photo album of Michael as a little kid. And man, I feel like more than anything in this show so far, that in particular was a real mindfuck. Like, her looking through what's clearly a very old photo album at her own son, who was like only a little bit younger than her by the time he died. And she's seeing him being raised by someone else, a stranger. Like, that is just... Her acting in that scene, too, was really well done. I just don't know... You know, I mean, there's no words for something like that. It's somebody stole your life, but they did so without meaning to and without malice. And they did so in order to help your child, actually, because you couldn't. You were incapable of actually doing anything to step in and help. So you have to be thankful, in a way, that they were able to provide a home, but you also hate and resent that they got to be the mother to this kid that you were supposed to be. They get to have the graduation photos. They get to have the memories, like, past a certain point. And just the mix of emotion has to be horrifying. So Jonas is talking to Claudia. And he tells her that it took him a long time to accept that he had to help start the disaster that he wanted to avert. She asks, how does he know all this? And he says, you taught me everything about the future and the past in the past 12 months. Everything that has happened, everything that will happen. And I'm just like, this, we know that Jonas becomes Adam. We know that. So I don't know if I'm supposed to be watching this and thinking that this Jonas is struggling to not be Adam and is going to succeed. But I'm watching this thinking whatever he's trying to do is exactly what will lead him to being like Adam. And I don't understand the timing of this, because I believe that this is the Jonas that just recently, like, got picked up from his house after realizing that Adam used him, and that he was, like, ensuring that his father was going to kill himself, and then got let out by Claudia. I'm assuming this is that same Jonas, but I don't know that for sure. And based on the way this episode ends, with a different Marta showing up, based on his shock, I don't think that he is a different Jonas. But it's possible. I don't think so. But I don't really understand in the timeline if this Jonas, who is younger than the Jonas we see putting Marta in the bunker, believes that he has to help create the disaster he was trying to avert. Why does the older version of him not seem to agree or be talking in the same way? Is this a mistake? I don't really understand. I don't know. I think I'm losing the thread of the timeline in which everything happens, which I'm sure y'all can forgive me for. But, like, is this something that older Jonas knows his younger self did, and he's trying to compensate for that somehow? Like, it just feels like his older self should be better at this point at being able to tell what's preventable and what isn't. You know, the fact that he keeps trying to save Marta. I mean, I understand that impulse, but I really would have thought that by now he would realize what a completely futile errand that is. I don't know. Maybe he just can't help himself, you know? But yeah, in this scene, he says there are two parties. Adam and Sigmundus want a new world. You and I want to save this one. And I don't know, you know, Adam is him. But how does he know that he doesn't go from this to becoming Adam? He really believes that he is somehow going to avoid his own fate that he has seen with his own eyes. And I am not certain what makes him believe that's possible. Or if it were, it would change the Adam that he becomes, and that would compensate somehow for the changes that he's making. I do not know. I do not know. So we go to Clausen, who demands to go into this mostly unused room, and everybody has to get into their hazmat suits and everything. And it is just so frustrating to watch him. Like, you just know that this is about to turn bad, and he is so not the guy to conduct this sort of investigation. You know, if I'm having somebody search a nuclear power plant demanding to dig shit up and open barrels, I'm going to want an expert. I'm going to want somebody who has experience with this shit. I don't want just some cop who was assigned to a missing persons case to come in here and just poke around and start opening up shit. Like, what is he doing? But he's so fixated on Alexander right now. That's all he can think about, you know? I'm looking at the paper because I just was like scrolling ahead on the video in order to try and find the spot, and I paused over the place where Noah pulls out the papers that he's saying to Adam, you're not waging a war against God, you're waging a war against humankind. And I wanted to see if I could like tell anything, but obviously a lot of it's in German, a lot of it is mathematical like characters and whatnot that I don't know. And yeah, you used me, had me do what you wanted, but now I know what I have to do. Whole gun thing. And then, of course, his sister comes in and pulls the trigger and kills him, and it's awful. Meanwhile, in the bunker, shit is beginning to go down. We have this amazing... I really like... For all of this show's dealing in nuclear waste and time travel and whatnot, they don't have to get into special effects too much. The God particle is the main thing. And then there is the effect when they begin to materialize somewhere else or a portal begins to open. We see Jonas starting the machine, and he says that the little like flickers that we are watching that are basically almost look like fireflies or sparks are time. And I have to say, that is a beautiful bit of special effect. It's very, very simple, but it feels really effective. It's so... It feels sort of new in that it doesn't move too quickly. I feel like a lot of the time when they are trying to have an effect of something that's like, maybe something that's like a play on electricity and sparks, and they're trying to have it moving, there's a very common, predictable, like rhythm to it and speed to it that we're used to seeing that it's not like I don't think it looks good, but it looks a lot like a million other things I've seen in other movies and other shows. This the blue lights are very slow moving and deliberate in a way that feels a lot more like you're watching the movement of a constellation or something. It's almost like you are looking at a tiny galaxy. And I think it's really cool. It's something that I noticed the other couple of times that it happened, but you get to really look at it this episode because it is sustained. I mean, when Katerina goes into the tunnel, you get a really long, good look at it. And when it begins to happen inside the bunker, where poor Marta is watching it turn into this sort of like cyclone effect, it is really something. It's really cool. So yeah, apparently Jonas, like, using this machine is him opening up the pathway again. And this leads to the familiar lights flickering, birds falling out of the sky. Like, things are really beginning to, you know, go left the way that we have seen before. And all of the kids together are realizing that some shit is very wrong, and they probably also should get to the bunker. Jonas shows up, and Bartos is like, this is all your fault. To which Jonas is basically like, correct, I know. And then we see young Jonas and Claudia coming out of the cave. And we will get to the reunion between her and her daughter. Meanwhile, Charlotte and Waller are heading for the power plant. And she is going to do her goddamn best to keep Clausen from opening up these damn barrels, but she will not succeed. Jonas tells Claudia to take the machine and go to the bunker by Helga's cabin. He tells her that she doesn't have much time, but that he is going to find his mother and Martha. I guess he isn't aware about his mother time traveling yet, which, I mean, why would he be necessarily? But him, like, leaving Claudia, it's such a funny moment because we're so used to Claudia being the one in control in these situations and knowing everything. And this younger Claudia has no idea and is being ordered around by Jonas. And it's just such a weird sensation to watch that happen, you know? So we have Waller demanding that they, like, unearth the buried, like, he doesn't know there's anything under there, but he just basically says to break it open. And oh, right. And then we have the confrontation between older Jonas and Noah. Noah shows up in his house, says, "You look different now, you know, since last time." Older Jonas says, "Did Adam send you?" And Noah says, "I've always wondered when you turned into him." And older Jonas says, "I won't. I would never do the things he did." Yada, yada, yada. And Noah's like, "Yeah, he said you'd say that. He also said that we'd be friends and then I would be betrayed." Which is a weird thing to tell somebody. Like, I assume that you could just say, "I know you are going to be betrayed," in order to foster a paranoia with somebody. I don't know. But they each ask one another what makes them follow and believe the people that they each follow and believe, Claudia and Adam. And Noah says, "We fasten ourselves to the salvation that's promised. If you kill him, and you kill all hope of salvation." I don't know what he means by that. He says he is the savior. The savior of what? What are you even talking? Like, I don't understand what it is we're fighting for here. And I'm starting to get a little bit impatient. I don't know how much longer I can go on having no idea the feeling I'm getting is basically Adam just kind of wants to end the world entirely and rebuild something brand new. But I don't know what he wants to rebuild. We didn't see a trace of him in the future to know what that looks like, if it succeeded or not, how prepared he is for the way things actually happen. Like, He's got all the scarring and burns, which I'm assuming is due to radiation in a similar way as it is with Elizabeth. But I'm starting to get a little bit twitchy about wanting to know what the hell goes on and what it is that he is even trying to do. So Noah has a note from Martha to give to Jonas. And when I saw that she got shot, I was super confused because she is alive somewhere, somehow, and I didn't understand how this could happen. We kind of maybe see how that worked out. Still not totally sure, but Jonas is reading it and says this can't be real. And Noah says, you must save her, Bartosz, Magnus, and Francesca, and later, me and Agnes. The circuit has to be finished for the next cycle to begin, just as the prophecy foretells. Okay, look. This is another thing. I don't know what Adam's after. I don't know what he's trying to do. I also don't know what constitutes a cycle. I don't know what constitutes a circuit. These are also things I'm beginning to get tired of hearing referenced with no concept of what they mean. I really don't know. I can't even hazard a guess. So I really am starting to be like, the show has got to start filling me in on at least a few things. I am fine with suspending my knowledge and disbelief and just letting myself go along for the ride to a point. But when something continually is mentioned like this, and it's done with this kind of gravity in these scenes, but I don't feel like I have any grasp on what it is, I feel like I'm either missing something or they're doing a bad job explaining. And I am not, I pull these shows apart when I talk about them. If anybody is going to start to put together what a circuit is, I would think it would be somebody like me who goes through these shows beat by beat and talks about everything. And I'm still not doing it. So either I'm missing something really obvious and I look like a doofus, or they have not really made an effort to let us know any of this yet. But yeah, this is just a weird scene where it feels like older Jonas falls hook, line, and sinker for whatever it is that Noah's telling him. And I don't really have a good understanding of why he believes Noah either. There's just so much about everybody trusting everybody else's word on what's going to happen or should happen. And I'm just like, why don't y'all just do the things that, I don't know why he's listening. So we go to Katerina, who has the big backpack on, the map, the crazy flashlight that's really cool looking. And she is going into the cave. And we wind up seeing all of these blue sparks materializing around her, and she begins to follow them into the depths of these caves and to the door that we have seen before. Then we go into the future and we spot Elizabeth, who is crawling through a hole to get into the abandoned nuclear power plant. Now, we don't know at the time what's happening here, but pretty soon it becomes apparent that she is aware of the date that her mother is going to appear in this portal. So she wants to go and see her mother/daughter. So that's why she's heading in there, is because she misses her and is wanting to have a bit of contact. Meanwhile, old Adam is being put into this bonkers looking 1920s version of a hazmat suit. And they are doing something with this machine, this giant version of the time machine. And I have no idea where he's gonna wind up or what's going on there. Clausen is supervising the digging up of all of these barrels, and this other dude is looking very, very afraid of, I don't know that this guy has any idea how dangerous this stuff is. I think he just assumes that it's going to be bad news bears for everybody. And we have the scene between young Jonas and Marta meeting, kissing, and then being interrupted by Adam, which I have to say was a very effective moment. Adam being there, watching, and creeping on the two of them together is just such a bucket full of cold water on the whole scene. And I'll say too that Martha and Jonas have amazing chemistry. The two of them, they really sell it that they have been like waiting a lifetime to kiss each other again, even though we know it hasn't actually been that long. It feels desperate and just so like they need each other. You know, I just really liked this moment. So this is when Adam says, and so the circle is closed. I don't know. Again, he's saying that this is like, I guess, the end of the first circuit. Again, I don't really know how that works. But he basically comes in, tells his younger self that all of the pieces are in position already, and all it's needed is a little push. This is what you need to become who you are. And then he shoots Martha. It's a weird thing. He holds the gun up, acts like he's going to shoot Jonas, and then moves his gun aside to shoot Martha a little bit too quickly for Jonas to step in the way, which I believe that he would have done. He says, the dark matter must be created so that I can lead it to its destiny in the future, the end of this world. And I am the trigger. But he does say, the trigger is in us all. And then says, but I'm not the trigger for what you think. I am the trigger for ... only what will make you what I am today. And he shoots her. Jonas has this moment of like trying to revive her, even though she's clearly already gone. And Adam stands over him and says, you can stop me, or you can try and save her. And I guess he knows already, of course, what Jonas is going to choose. I mean, he can't save her. That's not going to happen. It is inexplicable. I don't know what this is, what this means. But as he's looking down at her and holding her, and she's clearly dead, there is a step in the doorway. He looks up, and the minute that he reacts, I knew Martha was there. His acting is so excellent and so exactly on point for the reaction you would have to like somebody having just died in your arms, and you look up and they're standing there. And the Martha that's standing there is dressed all in black. She's wearing like her hair is in a bob with like really heavy bangs. She's just looks extremely different. And she looks down at the body, which I am tempted to call her own body, but it doesn't seem like that's the case. And she says, I'm not who you think I am. He asks, what time are you from? And she says, the question isn't what time, it's what world. I don't have time to explain it to you right now. And she pulls out this brass globe, which is really cool looking. And it looks to me like it's a miniature version of the time machine that everybody's been lugging around in a damn briefcase. She says, later I'll explain, but you have to come with me. And she puts it down, and these little bits and bobs come out that are very reminiscent of the original machine. And this light begins to flow out of it. And as this is happening with the two of them, we see the barrels being opened at the nuclear power plant and the dark matter rising up out of it. The only question that I have about how all of this can possibly work is why a barrel and some cement was able to keep this dark matter at bay. Why is it that was able to like they lift the lid and this thing fucking turns into a giant sphere. Like, I just don't understand how those things were what were holding it back, but I'm willing to let it go. It's just a kind of a funny thought, you know. My mortal enemies, barrels. So as it's lifting, we see the flickers of the sparks going into the cave tunnel and Katerina beginning to follow them. It's honestly really beautiful to look at. You know, I really thought it was something. The wavering particle solidifies into a perfect sphere, as we have seen it do when it was triggered with the correct type of energy in the future, but it does it spontaneously for some reason here. And for a moment, it looks like it's gone. It like shrinks into itself, and everybody's looking around like, what the hell? Where did it go? But then an opening begins to form. And I don't understand the connection between what's happening there and what's happening with Katerina, because I thought the sparks in the caves were an effect caused by what Jonas and Claudia did. But now it feels like it's happening because of what's going on with the dark matter. So this portal appears, and poor Charlotte, she looks through and she can see, I think she can tell that is Elizabeth standing there. I have no idea what she must be thinking. Like, I think she can tell, but what in the fuck? Like, I think if I were Charlotte, we know this is a look into the future, but I think I would think this was like another dimension, another version of reality. I don't know what I would think. And the two of them reach forward through the portal to touch one another. And as they are, there is this almighty shake, an earthquake sort of effect. And the camera pulls back so that we get a full view of all of Wyndon and this giant half sphere of black that appears over the entire town. It's really cool looking. Like, honestly, and I've said before that the effects of this show, like, they don't need to do too much of the time. But we just see, as he appears to be, Jonas and Martha appear to be escaping via this other time machine, we see the sphere explode outward and blow his house into shattered pieces. And that's the end of the episode. And it was just such a rude place to stop. And I'm just really mad about it. And I don't know what's going on. So Nikolai, thank you for commissioning this. But also, what the hell, guys? What is this? That Max Turner in the chat says, I'm now a fan of Dark and I've never heard of the show before today. LOL. Thank you. Watch it, Max. It is worth a watch. But I am not far enough to tell you whether or not it ends well or is satisfying. So I don't want to be held responsible for any potential disappointment that you may experience. Yeah, this, like, the addition now of a new world to the equation just changes everything. I have no idea now what's possible and what's not in this universe. Anything can go and anything can happen or be done or undone depending on, like, when in time. I mean, it can't be undone, it doesn't seem like, but everybody's trying to undo it anyway. And I have to think that's going to be successful eventually. If this is just a show of us watching everything, like, inevitably continue to be the same, no matter how much everyone tries to change the past, that's not really a particularly interesting show, right? So they're going to have to do something else. But I don't know who succeeds or how that works. I don't understand how young Jonas can be the one who, like, he can't be right. He can't, like, he can't be right. Everything that he is telling Claudia, he claims Claudia told him, but she could just have told him that because she thinks it's true, because he told her to begin with that she said that to him. There is no like, as far as we know, there is no grounds for her believing any of the things that she has said to him beyond having gotten the information from someone else who might have gotten it from nowhere. The circle, the way this works, I don't know what's happening. All right, well, that's all I got to say about this. You know what? I'm going to check and see when the next episode is booked for. I know that there had been an episode of Dark that was going to be commissioned as a live watch. So I also want to make sure that I don't watch the next one right away and screw that up. Oh no, there wasn't a live watch. I must be thinking of something else. It might have been Travelers. So this was season 2, episode 8. Oh my God, you guys, there is no further booking. This is the last episode of Dark that's booked, according to my spreadsheet. Y'all better get on this. What am I to do? Oh, all right. Well, I'm going to have to leave it. But if you guys are interested in helping out by booking an episode, you can go to unspoiledpodcast.com/shop and book a classic TV episode. Guys, I can't believe that I don't have another one coming. Oh, this is torture. All right. Well, I'll have to live with it. Thank you again, Nikolai, for commissioning this. Until next time, whenever that may be. Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.